Well, welcome to the Speak with People podcast, Thanksgiving edition. Happy Thanksgiving, my friends.
Gobble, gobble.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Turkey Day.
I bet probably some of you are not listening to this on Thanksgiving Day. You're probably...
Happy Black Friday, everybody.
Yes. Happy Saturday. Is Saturday a thing?
Small Business Saturday.
Small Business. Oh, Small Business Saturday. Yeah, fantastic. And then Monday, I think, or Tuesdays. No, Monday is Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday.
And then Tuesday's Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
That one doesn't get as much bill as the other ones.
It's a big week. That's because you're out of money.
That's you're right. You're right. Well, welcome to the podcast. This podcast exists because we believe words matter, and we really do believe the world can be changed through healthy communication. And so we hope that this podcast makes you laugh, makes you think, kind of challenges you, inspires you, encourages you to choose life-giving words in your everyday life. And so I'm joined today by the Speak with People team. I bet some of you didn't even know that there was a team. When it comes to a team, I'm trying to think about what team we're most like. You know, definitely not the Bad News Bears.
Oh, I would hope not.
The 92 Olympic team. The dream team.
The Dream Team. Yeah. Michael Jordan.
Or are we the Redeem team?
96 bowls.
The Redeem Team. Yeah, that's a really good one. Or are we the Avengers?
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Hey, we're just being honest. We're just
can
being
dream,
honest.
right?
So we all know that communication is important. Like, communication is oxygen to our relationships, and we communicate in a myriad. Big word.
Whoa.
Big word. A
You
myriad.
gotta
of
look that
ways-
one up.
You gotta look it up. A myriad of ways every day. We communicate one-on-one on a team like this. Some people communicate from a stage or from behind a camera. We communicate over email, social media. There's like a million ways. Now, we could probably fill this podcast with ways that we've all messed up with communication. I'm going to tell you a way that I messed up. Years ago, I was pastoring a church where we were doing a series on relationships, and specifically, we were answering some questions about sex and kind of what's God's way and the right way, the wrong way, all that kind of stuff. And so what we did to announce that we were doing this on a Sunday is we put out on their social media, hey, text your question about sex to this number. And the whole week went by and we didn't receive any texts. And I was like, wait a minute, like we don't want to know anything. Well, we got to about Friday when I get a call from a computer shop that was a couple miles away from our church office. And he's like, are you the crazy church? Because all these people are texting me all week, all these questions about sex. And he was like living on the phone. Well, when we went to communicate what we were doing, we put the wrong numbers on the slide. Anyways, I thought that was a pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super easy to miscommunicate with print stuff specifically.
Yes.
Right? Like every time I go to print something out, I'm like, please check it. And then I take it to somebody else, please check it. And then they check it and it's still wrong.
Right.
And I'm like, I thought you checked this. They're like, oh, we did. And it's like the biggest word on the text. And I'm like, that was misspelled.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been
Just
there.
had that. Yeah.
We did just have that. We did
just have that.
Any of you guys have a moment where you experience kind of a communication blunder? Or a communication mess up? Or a communication like, aha.
So my story is we were learning Spanish in Mexico. And
Probably a good place to learn
yes,
Spanish.
we were in language school. And I don't know if you know Spanish, but the difference between numbers is always hard to get. So I learned 14 is 14, 40 is 40. Right? That's the right way to say it. But we were in language school, and Janelle and I, we went to this fancy, somewhat fancy like Italian place, and we're just learning Spanish. We don't know how to communicate with the waiter. And he's like, would you like some bread? And we're like, well, how much is the bread? And he said, 14 pesos, 14 pesos. But we heard 40 pesos. And if you know me and my wife, you know that we are cheap.
Every dollar.
And we were not going to, we're like, $4 for like 2 pieces of bread. We're not doing that. But I didn't actually say that because I couldn't communicate. But in our brains, whenever he left, I didn't want to look like the cheap guy. So I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. And we were missionaries, so we had zero money anyway. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And so this whole time we're like talking about the 40 peso bread. And we're like, are you kidding me? I can't believe this place is costing 40 pesos for bread. And they bring out the check at the end of the time, and it was 14. And I was like, I felt like such an idiot because I was like, so like inside I was livid with the guy about like, why are you guys charging us so much money for bread? This is Mexico. It's supposed to be cheaper here. Like we were only like 2 weeks into our time there, but it was like, so, you know, communication with language is always, we had a language, a teacher that would always say, anytime you're learning a language, you're actually learning to spread joy because you're going to mess up and you're going to mess up and you're going to mess up and people are going to laugh at you.
Yep.
And yeah, it happened quite a bit, but
Yeah.
that's my story about poor communication. I've got plenty, but that's,
You guys, Zach or Christy, any pop to your mind?
Not on the top of my head, no.
How's the communication been with your father?
It's been rough. I keep telling him to listen to a podcast.
What's the podcast called?
Speak with People podcast.
Ah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
He might get some tips.
Self-advertising.
Christy, anything that come to your mind?
Oh, nothing specific. I've had several of those sending out something in print and just yeah. Oops.
have
Yeah.
you ever seen
Why do
that?
we
Have you ever
pick on
seen that movie? I don't know what the movie's called. I've never actually even seen the movie, but it's the kid that gets the tattoo on his chest that says "No regret." He thinks it says "No
Yeah,
regrets,"
no regrets.
but it's like "No regrets."
Right.
Like,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, communication is so incredibly important. And so since you guys have been a part of Speak with People, I mean, we're only 2 months old. I mean, it seems like we've been doing this for a long time.
25 years.
25 years. We're not really 2 months old. This kind of concept, in 2019, I was doing online cohorts that were just focused on people who stood on a stage. So, it was all that. And now with Speak with People, we want this to be a platform where we really help empower people to be healthy communicators in all the areas of communication, whether one-on-one, on a team, from a stage, from behind a camera, over email, however they communicate. So this has, kind of been a concept and been around for a while, but it was just literally a couple months ago that the state of Florida said, hey, you are like an official business. We got our paperwork, all of that kind of stuff. And we are, we're not even a dozen podcasts in yet. And it really does seem like it's been quite a while. Mm-hmm. So since we've been doing this, just wondering, you guys, because Zach does graphic design and web stuff, and Christy's our podcast. She makes sure everything's scheduled and working and following up. And Dennis is our podcast producer. We kind of fill all those roles. Since you've kind of been a part of this, and we're talking about communication, have you noticed in your own life you've had to address areas that needed to be improved in communication, or areas that you're like, ooh, I need to stop doing that, or those kind of things?
I think it's more top of mind. Like communication is definitely top of mind now. Because I'm like, oh, we just talked about that on the podcast. Oh, we just talked
Yeah.
about that on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of communication podcasts, so
Yeah.
this is the only
first.
one. This is the only one.
Yeah.
Right. So true. And just an awareness of, as we've been traveling a lot with family and stuff, and visiting a lot of different churches and different places, and during the message, immediately it's like, whoa, whether that person's speaking at us or with
speaking
us.
with, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so evident so quick, especially when you're around it all the time and you're thinking about it and you're diving into it. Yeah. What about you, Zach?
Well, growing up with the host, I've heard all this stuff a lot. So yeah, it's top of mind stuff. So when I hear it, I'm like, oh. When I see it, I'm like, oh. So, yeah.
So are you saying that it's helped you in your relationship with your friends and your girlfriend and your
Very much
siblings?
so.
Yeah. Would you say it's improved all of those?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic.
Making me more effective, empathetic, and captivating communicator.
Wow.
Behind the
This is
screen,
actually-
from a stage.
This is Jason's entire. This is his family ministry plan. I'm gonna
Yes.
make all my kids participate.
We have meetings every day at 10 a.m.
Now, today's goal is we're going to be more effective as a communicator.
Yeah. It's a 5-step plan of 3 parts. I'm not going to give you a whole part, but communicate well.
I love it. I know for me, I am one of those nuts who just thinks about communication all the time. And I don't know where it came from my childhood or if it was, I know for sure I've always loved speaking from a stage. When I was 10 years old, 11 years old, I like begged my neighborhood friends to come to my basement to hang out. I had my mom make cookies and I made my own stage and I stood on the stage and I had a pretend microphone and I like delivered like a message to them and then they got a cookie. So I've always loved being in front of people. But as I've gotten older and I've grown in leadership and relationships, just this concept of, because leaders communicate in healthy and unhealthy ways. Like we've all been around leaders who communicate in one of those two ways. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just been such a crazy passion to figure out how to communicate in a healthy way. Because I've seen them both. I've done them both. Like there are times, I'm a words guy. I talk a lot. I think a lot. I'm sarcastic. I like to make jokes. As good as I am, I think, with encouraging people with words, I can be as good with painful words. And I don't always mean them to be painful, but because I'm so sarcastic and sharp and, my jokes can be so cutting that I know I've hurt some people that way. So that's why, like, one of the things for me personally is, like, we're diving more and more into the world of communication. I'm like, I've got to protect my words so much more. And that's been one of the things that's like, okay, all right, I need to be able to do this, like to be able to do that.
It's like whenever you become a pastor and then all of a sudden you're like, no, wait, I just preached on that. Now I have to make sure that I don't do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like now you're like,
Yes.
every week we talk about something and then I'm like, okay, I know we talked about the best practices for this or for that, but I don't want to. And I don't like stop. Right?
Yeah, it's hard. Things that we've talked about. I mean, there's a leader that we're coaching right now who's, has figured out, okay, they have some tendencies in meetings with their teams to kind of do what I was just talking about. They're just being very sharp with their team. And he finally got to this place where he realized, wait a minute, my team is not like really listening or leaning in when I'm talking because I wasn't recognizing that my words are demeaning and sharp and dismantling. And so that's already been a win. We love leaders and we want to help empower and influence them and coach them. And so that's one of the things that, we do that people don't obviously see on the podcast, but, we get to be a part of coaching leaders either one-on-one or on a team. And so that was fun. Has any of you ever had a coach in your life that has spoke words in your life and what the difference that made?
I mean, I had a basketball coach when I was in high school who happened to be like my best friend's dad. And so he was also my math teacher. I went to a really tiny Christian school. So, he definitely helped with all of that stuff. Like, and even the life stuff that comes along with that. So.
Yeah, I can't think of like a sport ball coach, but one of my teachers, my band teacher, kind of like all the aspects, the music, the life, all that fun jazz. So,
yeah, I feel like I've had several coaches or mentors or even bosses that really just would encourage better communication and just better leadership skills and better life skills even. So
did you ever have like a really one that like really inspired you? Christy, was there like one who there's just
podcast idea: how to fish for compliments.
Well, honestly, though, in the realm of communication, when you were my boss, it really upped the level of thinking about communication and communicating better. Are you tearing up?
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm so thankful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, but it is true. Yeah.
I know.
I had a pastor once.
I know for me, I had a leadership coach. His name was Brian. And this was the first time I paid money for a coach. I've had teachers, and my band teacher was Mr. VK. He was like amazing. I had coaches in sports because obviously I'm a an athlete. But this was the first time that I paid, money. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, why am I paying all this money? And after that first session, I was like, oh my goodness, I can become so much better of a leader. Like he was able to kind of help me recognize some areas that I needed to renovate. And then it was so different when he held me to it than my wife or a friend or a coworker. It was like, oh, I'm paying him to hold me to it. I better actually do this. Like I got to get this done. And that year, for the entire year, every area of my life, I feel like it improved. And so I was like, okay, this is really important. What a good coach can do. And I know, like for some people, we joked about it before, like listening to a communication podcast. I hope that this podcast we're able to elevate the importance of healthy communication in people's life. I'm really I got the hand gestures going today. You know why? Because I just listened to Vanessa Van Edwards from the Science People, and she did a whole podcast on hand gestures and what you do and when you communicate.
Wax on, wax off.
Absolutely.
Wax on, wax off.
Okay, one other big area that I just want to talk about when it comes to Speak with People, because Speak with People, we exist to coach leaders to become better communicators in their lives, more effective, more empathetic, more captivating in all those different areas. And so for us, we do it through courses. Someday we'll have an online video course. We'll have courses that help you grow as a leader. You can watch them at your deal. We have cohorts. So these are online learning communities where you can join with other leaders. And we go through, again, how to become more effective as a communicator. Coaching, so that personal, private coaching or coaching with an entire team. And then the conference. And so I know for my life, it was 1999. I was sitting in Coble Hall in Detroit, Michigan, and I was the youngest person by 30 years in this room of leaders, probably 2,000 leaders. And a guy by the name of John Maxwell was on the stage. And it blew me away. 1999, I'm like, this is absolutely incredible. I had gotten his Enjoy Life Club cassette tapes. So every month this package would come, and I'd open it up and it'd be a cassette tape. This is a little piece of plastic with this string in it that you played it and it had audio. Okay. Yeah. But that moment I sat there and it ignited this passion in me to want to be able to communicate as best, as healthy, as impactful as I can. Have you guys ever had a moment where you were at a conference or a service or a meeting or a training where I've got to be better than I am right now at this communication or leadership or something like that?
I would say that John Maxwell came to college when I was at Liberty and did same kind of thing. He did that whole thing, but more than just him, it was there were times I can specifically tell you whenever I felt like I was supposed to make the change into ministry and not. I was studying accounting at the time.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I can remember being in a specific auditorium at a specific event whenever they were talking about, student ministry, youth ministry. And so that guided, a lot of my life for a really long time. So, so there's those moments I think that you have milestones where you're
yes,
stakes in the ground. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. This is what's happening, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Zach, anything for you? Any moments stick out?
Not at conferences or anything, but once again, the host is my father, and not only at home, but when we would go to services on Sundays, or I'd hear him speak at camps, kind of shaped my, my mindset.
We're gonna cry again.
It's a powerful moment.
Hold it together.
Christy, how about you?
Be strong.
Wow. I'm trying to think of just one specific moment is challenging. But I do recall seeing Priscilla Schreier at a conference, and just the passion that she speaks and communicates with, and her style and everything just was very, very inspiring. And I've just had moments like that, and a shout out to my mom even, who just really loves leading and leading others well. Just having those influences in my life have really
Yeah,
contributed to wanting to be a better speaker, wanting to be a better leader.
that's huge. And that's why we're hosting the Speakers Conference in March 21 to 23, actually, in Clearwater Beach, Florida. But we want to create those environments where, especially if somebody is a person at work who delivers presentations, or they speak from a stage, or they influence from behind a camera, we want to help you become more effective, because we all do. Like, we want to dive in, and our theme for the conference is lean in. So we want to figure out how to. Wow, we almost did that all. You missed it.
I'm sorry.
We all want to inspire our audience to lean in. All right, I like it. So that's what Speak with People is about. And so we hope that we can come alongside of leaders, teams, communicators, families, and help inspire them to really grab hold of communication and doing it in a healthy way and speaking words that are powerful. So if you're interested in coaching, we would love to talk to you. The best and easy way, you can go to the website, speakwithpeople.com. All the information's there. We'd love to just schedule a phone call so we can kind of talk it through and see what kind of coaching that you would absolutely want to be a part of. And thank you again for checking us out on social media. And if you're thinking, okay, I love this podcast, I want to go deeper into what we're talking about, we have a Speak with People Facebook group. I think we're all in the Facebook group. And so we put posts in there, we put helpful things to help you grow as a communicator and a leader. And so thank you for joining us on this podcast. Thanks for being a part of this special Thanksgiving Day episode. I really wish we would have had a turkey, because that would have been incredible.
Gobble.
All right. Well,
Go get some leftovers.
Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next week.